Marianne Williamson launches campaign against Biden, pledges to battle forces of hatred, injustice and fear. Marianne Williamson, a best-selling author of self-help books and a spiritual advisor, formally announced her candidacy for president on Saturday. She will take on Vice President Biden in the 2024 Democratic primary. At her campaign launch event at Washington, D.C.'s Union Station, Williamson said, "The status quo won't disrupt itself. That's our task. We are aware of the numerous problems facing this nation right now, not the least of which is a level of animosity and separation unheard of in our lifetimes. It is our responsibility to forge a vision of justice and love that is so potent that it will triumph over the forces of injustice, fear, and hatred." In her address, Williamson said. Williamson becomes the first Democrat with a significant national following to take on the 80-year-old president in the Democratic primary. In her unsuccessful long-shot bid for the 2020 Democratic presidential nomination, Williamson asked for reparations and the Department of Peace. First Democratic challenger for Biden in 2024 showdown. Biden, who is anticipated to declare his re-election campaign for a second term in the White House in the upcoming weeks or months, has the support of the majority of Democratic Party leaders from both the establishment and progressive factions. In November 2019, Democratic presidential hopeful Marianne Williamson applies to have her name placed on the 2020 New Hampshire primary ballot, Fox News. Williamson did not name Biden in her speech on Saturday, but she did claim that the United States avoided going over the cliff if Donald Trump was not elected president in 2020. "We're still 6 inches away," she remarked. She depicted a bleak picture of America filled with broken windows, addiction, destitution, and hopelessness. She criticized the city's leaders for lacking the spine or moral courage to address the problems, saying that half the people in the city don't even observe despair. "Ladies and gents, please allow me entry, I will." In an interview with the Medill News Service last month, Williamson declared her plan to run for president, saying, "I wouldn't be running for president if I didn't think I could contribute to harnessing the collective sensibility that I feel is our greatest hope at this time." A few days later, she announced in a Facebook post and on her website that she would officially announce her candidacy for the Democratic nomination for president on Saturday, March 4. Williamson will visit South Carolina on Monday and New Hampshire on Wednesday, as well as Michigan and Nevada, according to a political advisor to the presidential candidate, who spoke to Fox News earlier this week. On Friday, February 3, 2023, in Philadelphia, President Joseph Biden delivers a speech at the Democratic National Committee winter meeting. Patrick Szymanski/AP Picture, AP. In an interview last week with a New Hampshire Newstalk morning radio show, Williamson said, "You can respect what the president has done, beating the Republicans in 2020, and still feel it is time to move on." Williamson said that many of us, myself included, feel that in order for the Democrats to win in 2024, we're going to have to be able to give to the American people something much more than what she claims Biden is offering on Good Morning New Hampshire with host Jack Heath. Williamson was an unconventional contender in the 2020 election who advocated for the politics of love. Economic justice was one of the 6 pillars for a season of moral repair, which she stressed. She advocated for compensation for the offspring of African American slaves and suggested establishing a Department of Children and Youth and a Department of Peace. Her unconventional actions included having a meditation session while running for office in New Hampshire. On Monday, September 9, 2019, Democratic presidential hopeful Marianne Williamson oversees a settlement in Manchester, New Hampshire. Williamson, however, had trouble collecting money and was disqualified from the majority of the Democrat presidential debates. She withdrew from the campaign in January 2020, just before the start of the nomination primaries and caucuses, days after firing the majority of her small staff. However, she added, "With caucuses and primaries soon to start, we will not be able to gather enough votes in the election to elevate our discussion any further than it is now." Williamson went on to say that she didn't want to get in the way of a progressive candidate winning, referring to the fact that the battle for the Democratic nomination was currently very close. Prior to her announcement for 2024, Williamson visited New Hampshire last month. She will probably continue to spend a lot of time promoting there. That shouldn't come as a surprise, given that political analysts have predicted that New Hampshire will likely host any primary challenges to Biden. A longtime progressive strategist from the Granite State recently told Fox News, "Now you have everyone who wants to take a shot at Biden coming to New Hampshire to do it," pointing to the near certainty that the state will host an unofficial Democratic presidential primary the following year. The action is taking place in New Hampshire. The state's cherished century-old custom of hosting the country's first presidential primary and the race for the White House is recognized by the sign outside the New Hampshire State House in Concord. The Fox TV. The first primary in the race for the White House has been conducted in New Hampshire for a century. New Hampshire takes pleasure in its informed electorate and emphasizes small-scale and grassroots retail politics. The Democratic National Committee, DNC, overwhelmingly approved a new top of the calendar pushed by Biden last month, upending the conventional timetable, while Republicans are not altering their presidential nominating calendar for the 2024 election cycle. 3 days after South Carolina, New Hampshire will now vote second on the DNC agenda, followed by Nevada. Granite State Democrats, however, caution that the leadoff primary position will still be held by New Hampshire thanks to a long-standing state rule, and that a primary not recognized by the DNC, in which Biden does not participate, could spell trouble for the president. On the eve of the DNC calendar decision, Ray Buckley, the longtime chair of the New Hampshire Democratic Party, emphasized that President Biden would not run for office in the state's primary, which would still take place first. And he cautioned, "We predict that this will put him in an awkward position where someone other than the president wins the nation's first election. This will only intensify talk of Democratic divides." Williamson's arrival appears to be fulfilling Buckley's forecast. She stated to Politico earlier this year that the DNC's decision to change the nominating schedule was spitting in the face of democracy. Robert F. Kennedy Jr., a COVID vaccine opponent and environmental advocate, visited New Hampshire on Friday. Kennedy, the nephew of the late President John F. Kennedy and the late Senator Robert F. Kennedy, defended the primary at a gathering of the New Hampshire Institute of Politics, which for almost a quarter of a century has been a must-stop in the Granite State for prospective or actual White House contenders.